So let's turn to Mem Gimel Amud Bet, and let's do a few agadah about tzitzit, and then maybe we'll come back next time to the. What? No, we did that one. We did that one. There was Mem Daled.
That was a great one.
Yeah, it was a great one. We're going to do a different one. This is actually more local to tzitzis, and maybe we'll come back. Oh, fine. It was, and then maybe we'll come back later to the. I need a little bit of time to mull over. The weird Gemaras of bringing the souls of things like that at the end of the. So in the middle of Mem Gimel Amud Beis, so we get a series of agadatot about the mitzvah of tzitzis. Tanya idach, right, like halfway down the page. Uri'item oto uschartem et kol mitzvot Hashem. You shall see them and you will remember all the mitzvot of God. Shkula mitzvah zo keneged kol hamitzvot kulan. This mitzvah of tzitzit is shkula, is equivalent to maybe what?
Maybe on the wrong Tanya.
Yeah, I just realized that.
Okay, Mem Gimel Amud Bet. This mitzvah is equivalent to all the other mitzvot. V'tanya idach, V'tanya idach, and another braita. Uritem oto uschartem vasitem.
I still don't see it.
Another one is, and you will see them, and you will remember them, and you will do them. Re'iyah miviyah lidei zechira, zechira miviyah lidei asiyah. Seeing brings you to remembering, remembering brings you to doing. Okay, so we have two statements so far. Now I will point out already, there's one particular theme I want to get to here, but as we go along, let's make a few points. What does the word shkula mean? What might it mean? No, shkula, meaning it means shkula hi keneged kol mitzvot. It's equivalent to all the mitzvot. What might it mean?
I'm sure because
you mean that's literally. You don't mean like the meaning of the word. You mean like the concept.
Yeah, what does it mean conceptually?
I'm sure because I think it refers to says multiple different mitzvahs have this quality.
Great. So one possibility is it means it's equal, and maybe it's hyperbolic because there's a lot of mitzvah who get it. Fine. But there is another option which lends itself to this two lines I just read, and that is, think agadically for a second.
It's like I don't know.
If I wanted to read this very carefully, how would I read it? This is my suggestion, but I think it's actually right.
It reminds you of all the mitzvot, which was it says it calls you to do all the mitzvot. So because it will cause you to do those things, it's as if it is.
Good, right? Meaning, okay. So Rashi thinks it literally is equivalent to all the mitzvot because it has the gematria of 613, right? 600 plus 5 plus 8, right? The 5 knots and the 8 strings. But the simplest shot may just be what Aaron said, which is no, it's shkula, not that it's equal, like it weighs the same as. It's equivalent to the sense that its function is
to get you to do
all the mitzvot. So there's a certain element in which, and therefore these two statements are not read as distinct statements, they're read as dependent on each other. It is shkula keneged kol mitzvot because by seeing it reminds you, and by reminding you to get you to do all the mitzvot, so memela tzitzit as a part in all mitzvot, if it works. Rashbi Omer, Shimon Bar Yochai says, "Kol azariz b'mitzvah zo zocher mikabel pnei shchina." Anyone who is alacritous about this mitzvah will be worthy and will accept the shchina. Ksiv hacharitem oto, ktivatam Hashem lecha tirav oto ta'avod, because it says yes. The function with alacrity.
Be quick.
Zrizus.
Exciting.
Energetic and speedy.
There you go. Alacrity. This is one of those words that when Mayer was 4, I think I taught him the word alacrity because someone was mistranslating. His teacher was mistranslating the word zariz, and I'm like, that's not precise. It means alacrity, right? Zrizut is alacrity.
My brother who's 5 now. It was like a year ago. He taught us the word agitate, which means to mix.
Yes, it does. That's true.
Agitate? Like when you agitate someone?
No, not that. Like when you have a mixture, you agitate it.
Yes, it does.
It's just weird.
Okay, good. Good. Wow. So let's continue. So the Gemara then says, Tanu Rabbanan. Okay, I want to read through a few agadatot. Let's get just the feel for the Gemara, and then I want to make a few points on it. Okay, and I want to focus on one theme. We'll see how many we get to. Tanu Rabbanan. Chavim in Yisrael shesivivana kadosh baruch hu b'mitzvot. The Jewish people are beloved because God surrounds them with mitzvot. Tefillin b'rosheihen, tefillin b'zroteihen, utzitzit b'vigdeihen. They tefillin on their heads, tefillin on their arms, tzitzit on their clothes, and mezuzah lepitcheihen. V'aleihen amar David sheva bayom halalticha. And this is the 7 things that you are surrounded, right? With 7 things I praise you every day.
I thought it was the bracha of Kriyat Shema. I heard that somewhere.
The Gemara in Brachot says that. And here it gives a different one, which is the 4 tzitzit, the 2 tefillin, and the mezuzah, 7 ways, al mishbeik tzidkecha. And then the Gemara tells a story, which really deserves its own shir, and maybe we'll come back to it, but let's get all the Gemaras, and then we'll pick and choose here. But this is Uvisha shenichnas David lebein hamerchatz. Once David went into his shower house, v'ra'a atzmo omeid arom, and he saw himself naked. And Amar oili shemod arom below mitzvah. And he said, "Oi, I'm naked without mitzvot." V'kevan shenizkar b'milah shebivsaro. Once he remembered that he had a brit milah, nijashva da'ato. He calmed down. Lachar sheyatza, after he left, Amar ala shira. He sang about his brit milah. Shneamar lamnatzech al hashminit. The Tehillim singing on the 8th. Mizmor leDavid al milah shenitna bashmini. And then Gemara says, and this is presumably related to what we saw before, this ability of tzitzit to prevent sin. Now the Gemara tells you it's not just tzitzit, but Rilazim and Yaakov Amer kol sheyesh lo tefillin b'rasho, tefillin b'zro'o, v'tzitzit b'vigdo, mezuzah b'tchako. Whoever has these 7 things, hakol b'chizuk shelo yecheta. You have a chizuk, right? You won't sin. Shneamar v'achud mishulash me'ra yinetek v'mer chonem alach Hashem saviv l'reya v'yachaltzei. And then the Gemara tells you the famous comments about the colors. Tanya Hariv Meir Omer, Man ishtanat chelet mikol tzivonin, mipnei shat chelet domel yam, domel rakia, v'rakia l'keisei hakavod. Right? Why chelet? Because chelet reminds you of the sea, and the sea reminds you of the sky, and the sky the keisei hakavod. Shneimar v'tachat raglav k'masei levnat sapir, uchim etza shemayim latohar, uchtiv k'mar even sapir t'mut kisei. Right? That the color on the keisei hakavod is this blue. In the Yerushalmi, by the way, it's Tchelet is compared to what? No, the grass. Tchelet domel asavim, asavim liyam. And it seems to be that they thought of Tchelet as more of a green blue than a green. Okay.
But how is green like? Oh, I was just saying, how is green like the sea? But like many oceans are.
No, it's not. It's domel asavim.
Yeah, no. But you say asavim was like similar to this.
Asavim l'rakia, something like that. Anyways. One more. Okay? One more comment. Tanya Hayrimeir Omer. Remeir says, Gadol onshel shel avan yoter mi onshel shel tchelet. The punishment for not wearing white is greater than not wearing tchelet. Why? Because mashal ma'adav adomeh. What's the mashal for this? Domeh lemelech basar v'dam shamar l'shnei avadav lechad amar haveli chotam shel tit lechad amar haveli chotam shel zahav. He told 2 of his servants, one bring me a seal of gold, and one he said bring me a seal of clay. Ufashu shneihem, both of them didn't do it. V'lo havio ezem enon shom mirubeh. Which one will you punish more? The one that he told him, bring me the cheap thing, and he didn't bring that. Right? It might be hard to bring gold. Right? So Lavan, you don't bring it. That's terrible, because that was easy. You don't bring the tchelet. Fine. Okay? So these are the series of statements that you get in the Gemara about tzitzit. Now, let's make some methodological points. One way of reading this is that this collection of agadot are just that, right? We are talking about the chashivut of tzitzit, the importance of tzitzit, so we throw a bunch of things together.
Sounds nice.
Right? And alternatively, it may be that they are connected. So we saw this already in the first 2 statements. The first statement is that tzitzit is shkula keneged kol mitzvot, and the second one is that it reminds you of the mitzvot by riyah maybe l'schira l'mitzvot. So there we have that methodological question. Are these 2 nice statements about tzitzit, or is the word shkula, right, equivalent to, understood in light of the comments, that it leads you to think about all the mitzvot? That's what it means, that it's shkula. Right? That would be that approach. So let me ask you the following question. Let's start with the last agadata, which is very strange. The last agadata says what? Let's try this again. the punishment of not having white on your tzitzit is greater than the punishment of not having the tchelet. Why?
In a sense, because it's just so easy to do the law.
So Yosef tells me that because the message of the Agadata is the easier the mitzvah to do, the worse it is if you don't do it.
Given...
Right? I understand that. I'm going to use you as a straw man for a second, okay?
Okay, fine.
I understand that you now want to qualify your position. That's fine. But you said what I wanted. That's fine. You said what I needed you to say in this moment. Perfect. One way of looking at it is as you just did that. But what methodologically did Yosef just do? There are two things that Yosef did that can be questioned. One is, what did he do? What did he do? Come on. What did he do with the Agadata? What did he do to the Agadata?
He actualized it.
How?
By literalizing it.
No. He got rid of the mashal. The mashal is meaningless.
Okay, fine.
It could have been anything. Right? The mashal disappeared. In Yosef's reinterpretation of it, the mashal disappeared. Meaning, the fact that this is an eved is irrelevant. Right? That's irrelevant to the message of the Agadata. That's just a mashal. But the real message is, the easier the mitzvah, the worse it is for you if you don't do it. That's one. And the second thing is, does this have anything to do with the other Agadot in this section? No. But now we said that may be fine, but that's a methodological assumption you said. Right? The first ones are about the importance of tzitzit, and once we're talking about tzitzit, we make a comment that's really about all mitzvot. Right, which is the easier the mitzvah, the worse it is to be derelict in the mitzvah. But that has nothing to do with tzitzit per se, except to say that lavan is less expensive than tchelet. Okay, you're not wrong. But I'm saying those are the two assumptions you made.
Oh yeah, I agree. Am I qualified?
Right, those are the two assumptions he made. Okay. Let's say we didn't want to do that. Let's say methodologically we wanted to say that the mashal was important, one, and that this is a claim that is unique to tzitzit in a way that it's not to other mitzvot. Meaning this is not a random statement that happens to be said about tzitzit, but this is a statement that is intentionally put in a series of statements about tzitzit. So what would we do to do that? So let's go back to the mashal. Let's try it again. Tell me the mashal again. Tell me the Agadata again. And this time, take the mashal seriously.
So I guess there's a king who told his servants to bring him a seal of clay and a seal of gold. And they both...
Oh, come on. So what's the message? So what's the message?
That I guess the tzitzis are the seals.
Thank you. That the mashal tells you that what is the mashal of an eved? So look at Rashi or at Tosfot. Look at Tosfot for a minute. Ma shemedadmeh chotam shel tzitzit. Tosfot takes the second methodological approach, and he says this isn't a generic mashal that you happen to say by tzitzit. The mashal is part of the message. And it's about tzitzit, and that is, what is this chotam that we're talking about? What is this seal? It's the sign of a slave. Right? A slave would have a badge that said,
Slave.
I am a slave.
Hello, my name is.
And why are tzitzit? Why is the mashal used to explain tzitzit? The badge of slavery.
It shows our commitment to God. Good.
It shows our commitment to God. Now, very good. Now, somebody want to tell me, we've made one move here, which is, the mashal is serious. Now, tell me, does that help us suggest a direction in which these are not random statements about tzitzit, but there's actually a conceptual link?
This is one of many sides of slavery which help remind us to...
Or more than that. No. It's almost. I think I would push it even farther.
They're the main sign.
The sign.
Even more. It's the sign, and therefore what?
And therefore without it, yeah.
Come on, listen to this. Listen to what you have a Agadic section. What's the first statement of the Agadic section? Tzitzit is
equivalent to all
shkula keneged kol mitzvot. What's the last statement about tzitzit?
That not having white is worse than not having.
No! That tzitzit is the badge of slavery to God.
Yeah.
Is there any conceptual way in which the opening agadata of this unit and the closing agadata of this unit are meant to bracket it and create a thematic
That's what
statement?
That's what mitzvah are servitude to God.
More! Why is it shkula keneged kol mitzvot?
Because
Because it's the badge of your slavery to God. What could be more equivalent to all of the mitzvot than what?
Something that tells you
A symbol of your acceptance
Of all the
of all the mitzvot. Right? So suddenly, if you take the first agadata in the unit and the last agadata in the unit,
It works.
it seems to be that these aren't random agadatot about tzitzit, but they actually explain each other. In what sense are they shkula keneged kol mitzvot? Because it's your badge of slavery, meaning it's that which expresses
your obligation.
that I commit to these obligations.
Close enough.
Right?
Not really.
And therefore, shkula keneged kol mitzvot. And therefore, when I'm wearing it, what does it do?
Shows that you express that.
And therefore, what does it do to me psychologically?
Prevents you from
Yes, it prevents me from breaking the laws, because when I look at it,
you know that you're.
suddenly the Gemara is telling you, wait a second, what does it mean? What are you thinking? What does it mean that tzitzit remind me of all the mitzvot and get me to keep it? What does it mean?
It reminds you of what it's.
You reminded you they're a slave. That you have a commitment. But wait a second. But suddenly there's a problem here. Right? Which is this a normal slave?
No.
Why is it not a normal slave? Think about this story.
Because we.
Think about it. What's going on? Is there something weird about this slave? Think about the mashal.
a golden
Now you notice something else about this agadata. We're not talking about a slave. We're talking about two different types of slaves.
Why?
Right?
Yeah, a slave that. Why would your slave have gold?
A slave who has gold. What else? A slave who seems to have a certain level of volition. Right? Please get that for me. If you don't get it, I'll be upset. But this is not. Right? There's a slave that. It's a very particular type of slave. A slave where.
He can make his own choice.
Yes. Rebellion is a possibility. Rebellion is a live possibility. Right? Where he can choose to be a slave and therefore wear gold. Or he can choose to rebel. Right? We're talking about a slave to whom freedom is an option. And now, go back to the...
You know where it sits is...
the opening agadata tells you shkula keneged kol mitzvot. The second statement tells you that wearing tzitzit reminds you to do the mitzvot. What does reminding you to do the mitzvot mean? That I'm supposed to do the mitzvot, but there's a live option that I won't listen. Right. And then how does the agadata end? And if you choose not to put on that symbol, meaning you choose not to remind yourself, then God's going to get angry because you had this potential. Do you understand? Suddenly, when you start thinking about agadatas as units, as thematic units, then suddenly, right, they start to fit together. These aren't random statements. These are statements that reflect on each other. Right? They reflect on each other. Now remember, you can add levels to this. Tchelet. Why is Tchelet that which reminds you? Why is it Tchelet the one that reminds you of all the mitzvot? Why is Tchelet not the Lavan?
Because it reminds you of the kisei.
It reminds you of the throne. Good. It reminds you of the throne of God. Anyone remember what is true about Tchelet in Tanakh?
Actually, in like modern scholarship, the dye from the chilazon is called royal blue.
Thank you! It's a royal color. It was expensive and rare because it was the color of royal. So wait a second. Do you understand? Now let's start to build the ironies in the agadata. Right now let's start to see a theme emerging. What does it say? What is the sign of your slavery?
Gold.
Royalty.
Royal blue that reminds you of God's throne. But I'm wearing it.
Since we're like a royal slave.
Yeah. Yes. And suddenly you realize these agadot, one build on the other, and as you do it, right? As you do it, you realize that these agadatot are building a theme. Right? They're building a theme. These aren't random statements. There's actually a logic to this, and each one of them is adding something to our interpretation. So, one second. So now Rav Asher Weiss picks up on some of this, and he asks a question. And he says, I got a beautiful Agada comment for you. It's a mix of Agada and halacha. And he says, okay, there's a halacha here that is going to make everything in this whole Agadata sound really confusing.
Yay.
What did I just say? What is clear in this Agadata? That there is a level of volition, right? Rav Asher Weiss says, halachically, there's something that complicates this Agadata even worse, which is that tzitzit is
Optional.
an optional mitzvah, a mitzvah kiyumit. And he says, wait a second. I don't have to wear a four-cornered garment.
Yeah, that just adds to this entire point.
Oh, yeah, but he says, wait a second. It's very strange. Is the symbol of the slave optional?
No.
Right? You would think not. And so how is this? Right? How is that the symbol of, why is a mitzvah kiyumin, an optional mitzvah, the symbol of slavery? Right? It's very, very strange. And if it's really so great, so why? Right? So much so that halachically we put it on before tefillin for this reason. Because tzitzit is the greatest of all mitzvot.
Ma'un Kodesh.
What?
Ma'un, are you saying tefillin versus tzitzis?
We put on tzitzit for, right? That's the mitzvah. That's what the Beis Yosef says in Siman Chav Hey. Because of this.
I thought it was Tadi Rita'in and Tadi Kohen.
No, Beis Yosef says it's because it's Gdola Mikol HaMitzvot.
But wouldn't it also, would that...
Possibly, but the Beis Yosef says Gdola Mikol HaMitzvot.
No, you don't wear it every day. You wear tzitzis every day.
So he says that halacha will suddenly remind us of the following: that maybe the hidden message of this Agadata is what the hidden message of this Agadata? That you only realize once you...
Well, that we serve God like out of choice and not...
Correct. That we are slaves of choice. And that's why this is Shkula Keneged Kol HaMitzvot. Because this isn't just slavery, it's slavery of choice. We choose. Yes, but we choose.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, we choose to be his slaves. And we choose, right? We choose to be his slaves. That's why it's Shkula Keneged Kol HaMitzvot. That's why it's so much power to remind us of mitzvot. Because we think about it. If tzitzit is the sign of our slavery, is the badge of slavery, and God says, but you don't have to wear it.
But wearing it shows.
But I wear it, I show I'm making myself a slave. Which means that I'm going to remind myself of Kol HaMitzvot because I was choosing to accept slavery. And that's what's going to be Shaveh Kol HaMitzvot. Because I willingly accepted the Om Malchut Shamayim. I wore that thing that reminds me, right? And it reminds me what type of slave I'm. Why is it royal blue? That reminds me of the crown. Because, right, I embrace it. I recognize that this slavery is a slavery Sheish B'Malchut. Right? It's willing. But you only realize that if you start realizing these Agadatot build. Right now, he notes, he builds this even more. Sometimes this is a bit more of a drasha. He says that by conversion, as soon as by slave, when a slave is put underneath he goes to a mikvah, right? Because it's a partial conversion. As soon as he comes out, you have to throw a sign of slavery on him. I'll skip that point. But he says, okay, well now we have this Eved. He said, think about it. Right? If you go through Tanakh, Eved Hashem is always the highest status that's given to someone. It's not the bare minimum, right? You have to work to be Eved Hashem, right? Moshe, exactly. Meaning he said, how do I know that this is true? That this is not a minimum. It's not a bar. Oh, everyone's a slave. No. The whole point here is that there's a level of choice in becoming this type of slave, and therefore it's something to aspire to, not a given. Because he said, because in Tanakh, exactly, in Tanakh, only the greatest people are Eved Hashem. Moshe is Eved Hashem, meaning this is clear that this isn't a base, right? To be an Eved Hashem is the ultimate, right? That's why the whole irony of this Agadata is that it's slavery, which is optional. That I am, so to speak, embracing it, and nevertheless God will be upset if I don't, right? If I don't accept it, so to speak, or I put on a four-cornered garment and choose not to put on, the sign of slavery, right? That's already a problem, right? That's exactly.
It's like I'm smarter than you.
Okay, and therefore he says, because of this nature of slavery in Tanakh, right? Because the type, and he says, and now he adds, prove to me that to be a slave to God is not one of coercion, but is one of volition. Prove it to me.
Nasav and Nishma.
Great. That's one of his proofs, is everything we talk about Nasav and Nishma, that we chose to become slaves in that moment, but there's something else. Give me a Mishnah. Third Mishnah in Pirkei Avot. Antignos ish sochomer al tu gavadim amashamshin rav manas kabel pras eleg evu kavadim amashamshin rav shalom manas kabel pras v'imor shamayim aleichem. There are different types of slaves that you could be. One who wants to do it for reward and one who doesn't. Be like the one who doesn't want reward, meaning you have a choice of what type of servant you're going to be. The Tanakh recognize, the Chazal recognize that you have a choice. So now he says,
I'm not saying where you're at.
and then he says, and this is the key, right? So the second word I said is this is where he gets it. He said, what does it mean that it's shkula kol on mitzvot? So he says, the answer is what I just said. It's shkula kol on mitzvot because it's an expression of a voluntary acceptance of avdus. What could be more shkula kol on mitzvot than voluntarily accepting symbolically all the mitzvot? And he says, "Arei the mitzvah tzitzit yisodavin and chotam shel avdut." The yesh lavin avdut zumahi umayana. What is this slavery that we talk about? So he says, "Harei barur ditamtzit ha'avot hu kabbalat all." Slavery means to accept a yoke. Ukeshem she'eved mikabel all adono. Kach ish Yisrael mikabel b'mitzvah tzitzit all elokav melech malchei malachim hakadosh baruch hu. A slave accepts the yoke of his master. A Jew accepts the yoke of God. V'kasher ba adam lekabel all malchuto lamanu chazal. Lama ma parshat shma lahar parshat shema kedei shekabel avol malchut shamayim tchila v'achar kach mikabel all mitzvot. He says, right, guys, we're doing Daf Yomi. You'll get to this soon. But the Gemara in Brachot Yud Gimel says, why do you say Shema and then V'hayim Shamoah? What do Chazal say? Because Shema is Kabbalat Ol Malchut Shamayim and V'hayim Shamoah is Kabbalat Ol Mitzvot. It says the theology of Chazal is that first you start with acceptance of the yoke of God generically, and only then can you accept the details of the mitzvot. So he says, "V'gam mitzvat tzitzit nired tarte itba." Both of these aspects are true in mitzvot. Kibel ol malchut shamayim betchelet hamaskira lanu kisei hakavod. We accept not just ol shamayim, but now he says, "I got another vort for you." Why tchelet? Because what's the imagery in Chazal of accepting avdut every time? What's the language? I just said, ol malchut shamayim. Correct. In order to accept God's yoke, Chazal always talk about it, specifically the yoke of the king. So think about it. Here we have two consecutive agadatot that tell us what? The tchelet reminds you of the throne of God, and tzitzit are the chotam of avdut. So what's the kesher? Because you need to first remember that God is king in order for your acceptance of avdut to not just be regular avdut, but the avdut of malchut shamayim, the royalty, literally, of heaven, the kingdom of heaven. So, therefore, the sign of your slavery must specifically invoke a memory of God's throne. You get that image? Right? Again?
Maybe.
Right? It says, what, we have two agadatot in a row at the end. One is, Tchelet reminds you of the sea, which reminds you of the sky, which reminds you of God's throne.
Yes, kisei hakavod.
The second one, agadatot, tells you that tzitzit are the sign of slavery. He says, yeah, but what is the slavery called everywhere else in Chazal? Not avdut of Hashem, but all malchut shamayim, the yoke of God is king. So he says, correct, and therefore he says you can only be an eved of God if you're cognizant of the fact that God is melech. So therefore you have two agadatot in a row. First you remember the tchelet, which reminds you of the throne. Oh, I'm thinking about the throne. now I can become the slave to the throne. Right? So it's not just that they connect, but they define each other. What type of slave are you? A volitional one. Right? B, a slave specifically of God qua king. Yeah, qua. Like in his role as king. Right?
It's a word.
In Latin,
Qua?
yes. In Latin, yes. תחילה דומה לים לא לרקיע דומה לכיסא הכבוד וכיסא הכבוד הוא מרכבתו קדשו שעליו יושב השופט כל הארץ ועניין התחילה רומז לקבלת או מלכות שמיים ומאידך, and he says, so first of all tzitzit reminds you of that, מאידך מבואר tzitzit רומזת בתרי"ג מצוות. So but tzitzit does both at once. The tchelet reminds you that God is king, but according to Rashi, what does the white remind you of? The 613 mitzvot. Because remember, Rashi says the gematria of tzitzit is 600, plus the five knots, plus the 8 strings, meaning the totality of tzitzit reminds you of mitzvot, the color reminds you of malchut. So he says you have both aspects. You have the blue, which reminds you of God's throne. So therefore you can accept yourself as a slave of God's as king. And then, what is the content of that slavery? That which is nirmaz by the white. Which Rashi writes right here, that why is it shkula keneged kol ha-mitzvot? Because 600 plus 8 plus 5.
But the thing is, if that's the idea behind tzitzis, then why are you allowed to wear tzitzis without tchelas?
Well, that's machlok in the Gemara, whether you can. Right? Tchelet makiv 11 or
I'm
ain't
saying,
makiv.
does the side that say you can't, that
So you have to say there's two, so you get
not
some
agree
value.
with this?
Well, you could say there's an ideal and there's a secondary one, right? Right, it's clearly not ideal to have it without tchelet.
Right, everyone would say this is a good idea. Whether it's makiv or not is a different question.
And therefore he says, "V'kach nechshavim atzitzit kichotam shel tit, v'kavla da'avda v'al yada mekabel ha'adam al atzmo ol malchut shamayim v'ol mitzvot mamlich al atzmo malcho shel olam." So through this he accepts the kingdom of God, the mitzvot. Ukvar be'arn di'ikar avodat ha'avdut malata ha'yetera hi ba'avodat mitoch simcha v'ratzon. And again, as we've already talked about, what's unique about this is this volitional nature, because you do it through simcha, through joy. And that's why it's not an obligation. Ella nitlata b'ratzon ha'adam. And he says, now I'll explain to you one more agadata here. Another statement in the agadata is that anyone, what did Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai say? That anyone who's zariz in its mitzvah will be zocher mikabel pnei shechina, will get to see God, whatever that means, right? Except God. He says, why? Right? Why is that agadata embedded in these series of agadot?
If you're the reason you're voluntarily accepting,
Yes, exactly.
everything.
B'diuk is that of course you're going to get to see God if you voluntarily accept Pnei HaMelech, right? The Malchut of the Melech. That's the person that, so to speak, that God is going to want to have a relationship with, right? So again, all these agadot build, right? This isn't a series of random statements. It's, in what sense does it remind you of all the mitzvot? Like this: you accept to be a slave. A slave of who? God as king. Hence, tchelet, which reminds you of the kisei hakavod. Once you've accepted the slavery upon yourself, memela, that reminds you of all the mitzvot. And this has this general logic. The tchelet therefore reminds you of the kingdom as a whole. The number of the tzitzit and all that reminds you of the content of that slavery. Why is it that if you fulfill this, you will be zochet to be makabel pnei shechina? Because, of course you are. You've accepted God's kingdom and become a slave to God voluntarily. And, maybe we should spend more time on this, but I would suggest that, right, there's sort of a, right, what's the central agadata in this story? Right, what's the central agadata in the middle of the story, the longest agadata in this unit?
David.
And what is the key? Right, there's more going on here, but what's the fundamental key to that agadah?
I guess he is so zariz to accept the chatam that he suddenly he finds it wrong to not have the...
Yeah, right, meaning the whole point is that David isn't the type of person who only wants to be Yotzei Zayin, right? He wants to do the mitzvah he needs to do. What is that whole agadata about? What's that story about? That David went into the merchatz and said, "Oy vey, there are no mitzvot on me." And then he realized, no, I do have milah. I have something, and he celebrated, right? and he sung about the mitzvah of tzitzit and tefillin and mezuzah, that I'm surrounded by mitzvot. I praise God for the fact that He gave me obligation. Right? Sheva b'yom hilalticha mishbedei tzidkecha. Right? The whole middle story is an example of David, who was so excited to be chayev in mitzvot that he sang songs about mitzvot. Then when he when he thought he wasn't fulfilling a mitzvah, he was depressed until he remembered that he had the symbol of God on him in his milah. Right, that even when naked and bare of mitzvot, his body represented that he was still God's, and that made him happy. Right, the whole middle of the story is a very illustrative way of getting the point across. That what does it mean to be this servant, this happy servant who accepts it voluntarily, to be the type of person like David who will sing to God because he has mitzvot, will be depressed when he thinks that for a moment he doesn't have mitzvot, will be happy when he realizes that even when naked, he can never escape the fact that his body is physically marked with a sign of God, which in a certain sense is like what?
Brand of an Eved.
Yes, exactly, the band of an Eved. Right? That no matter what you do, even if you're naked, everyone will know who you belong to. Right, and that's what David's rejoicing at. That narrative in the middle brings all the themes of the Agadah Torah, the beginning and the end, together. And therefore, what I would argue is that, again, there's a lot in each of these Agadah Torah, but methodologically, I think the best way of understanding these Agadot are Agadot that are building to a theme, right? That they shed light on each other, right? This is one big theme. And again, let's now read all the Agadot together. Tzitzit is shkula keneged kol ha-mitzvot. Why is it equivalent to all the mitzvot? Because it's a sign of slavery, which means that if you accept God's slavery, you're bound by all the mitzvot. But what type? Who are you a slave to? Hashem. Who is Hashem? The King. How do I know? Because Tchelet reminds you of God's throne, right? So therefore, this is not just random slavery; it's slavery to the King. But this is voluntary. Because it's voluntary, anyone who does the mitzvah of tzitzit will be mekabel pnei shechina, right? Because this is voluntary. You accepted to be God's slave. But what type of slave would accept slavery? One who's happy about it, who values the relationship. What type of person do we know who did that? David, who sang songs about all the signs of his slavery and was depressed when he couldn't be mekayim a mitzvah until he realized that no matter what he did, he could never escape the branding on his flesh that showed that he belonged to God. And that was what comforted him. And then you do have this one more thing that I hadn't thought of, but I'll think about it now. Of course, the most illustrative person, there's something else about David that makes him the perfect person for this story. Well, we already said Tehillim, right? He sings the song, but there's something even, I think, more central for this purpose. He's a melech.
Oh,
he's a king
right.
that accepts the king. Right? He's a king who recognizes that he's a slave. Right? Which, if you want to bring the point out, that tzitzit is supposed to remind us that we accept slavery willingly, there's no better person to do that than to say that a king recognized that he's really just a slave to the real king. Right? That is the ultimate way of expressing it. And therefore my contention is that all these Agadah are really one Agadah unit, one thematic unit that's building to an idea, and they're all shedding light on each other. And I think you only get that if you're willing to read this from beginning to end as a coherent unit, not just a series of random statements about tzitzit. And again, I think that requires taking the mashal seriously, reading all the Agadah in light of each other. But those are at least my organizing thoughts on this Agadah. Again, there are other things that can be said on it, but I think that's enough to sort of get the basic approach of what the Gemara wants to teach about tzitzit. Okay. This was, I think, a little bit less of a weird Agadah than when we've done. I think it actually is a straightforward one in that sense. Okay.